Let me tell you something about humans that nobody warns you about in the Galactic Council orientation videos. They don't tell you that humans are insane. They don't mention that humans will burn down entire star systems for reasons that make absolutely no sense to anyone with a functioning brainstem. And they definitely don't explain that if you so much as bruise one of their friends, they will smile at you with those terrifying flat teeth, and then proceed to dismantle your entire existence with the casual efficiency of someone assembling furniture. I learned this the hard way. My name is Vorrn, and I'm a Kthresh navigation specialist. Was a navigation specialist, I should say, because after what happened on Station Hellix 9, I decided that maybe a quiet retirement on a farming moon somewhere sounded pretty fantastic. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started 6 cycles ago when our cargo hauler, the Endless Prophet, docked at Hellix 9 for routine resupply. Standard stuff. Boring even. Our crew was the usual mix of species you'd find on any third-rate freight operation. Captain Dulrex was a Vangorn, all scales and terrible decisions. First mate Kessick was a Blorn, which meant she had 4 arms and exactly 0 patience for stupidity. And then there was Marcus Reeves. Human. Engineer. My friend. Yeah, I said it. My friend. Look, I know what you're thinking. Vorrn, you purple-skinned idiot, everyone knows you don't get close to human. They're emotionally volatile, they cry at sunsets, they form pack bonds with literally anything that holds still long enough, and they have this disturbing tendency to die heroically for causes that could have been solved with basic diplomacy. But Marcus was different. Well, no, he wasn't different at all. He was exactly like that. But he was also the only person on that ship who laughed at my jokes, who covered my shifts when I had mold sickness, and who once spent 14 hours straight repairing the atmospheric processors in Bay 7 because he knew I was sleeping in there and didn't want to wake me. Good guy, Marcus. Soft-spoken, always smiling, never caused problems, which is why what happened next was so monumentally stupid. We were 3 days into our station leave when the Krellian supremacy delegation showed up. And oh, what a delight they were. The Krellians are these massive reptilian assholes who think they own half the galaxy because their empire spans 12 systems and they have really big guns. Their commander was a piece of work named Thrakos the Unyielding. Stupid name. Stupid face. Stupid attitude. Thrakos stood about 9 feet tall, covered in crimson scales that he probably polished every morning while admiring himself. He had these ridges along his skull that flared out when he was angry, which was always in claws that could punch through hull plating. His entourage consisted of about 20 soldiers in matching black armor, all carrying plasma rifles that were definitely not regulation for a peaceful station visit. But here's the thing about Hellix 9. It's what we call a neutral zone. Every species is supposed to play nice. The station administrator, a spider-like arachnus named Coordinator Vel, ran things with an iron leg, all 8 of them. No weapons in public spaces, no territorial disputes, no violence. The Krellians didn't care. I was at Spinner's Den, this bar in the entertainment sector that served drinks specifically, calibrated to get various species absolutely wasted, when I heard the commotion, shouting, the distinctive sound of furniture breaking. The bartender, a gelatinous Florn named Ribble, made this gurgling noise that I'd learned meant trouble. I should have stayed put. Should have ordered another glass of fermented Jex and minded my own business. But I heard Marcus's voice. He wasn't shouting. That's what worried me. Marcus didn't shout. When humans shout, they're angry but still in control. When they get quiet, when their voice drops to that calm, measured tone, that's when you should start running in the opposite direction, at maximum speed. I pushed through the crowd gathering near the entrance to the station's main concourse. What I saw made my 3-chambered heart skip several beats in sequence. Marcus was on the ground. Not just on the ground, mind you. On the ground with one arm bent at an angle that arms definitely should not bend. His face was split open above his left eye, blood running down his cheek. That red human blood that looks so wrong outside their body. Standing over him was Thrakos the Unyielding, looking extremely pleased with himself. 4 of his soldiers had formed a perimeter, keeping the crowd back. Nobody was doing anything. Coordinator Vel was nowhere to be seen. Class. I pushed forward anyway because apparently I'm also an idiot. What happened? I asked. My translator chip probably making my voice sound way less authoritative than I intended. One of Thrakos's soldiers, a smaller Krellian with silver markings, hissed at me. The human bumped into the commander. Showed disrespect. This is discipline. Marcus looked up at me. His eye was already swelling shut, but the other one was clear. So clear, And he did this thing with his face that humans do, this tiny movement of his mouth that wasn't quite a smile. "I'm okay, Vorrn," he said quietly. "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." The man's arm was shattered and he was telling me not to worry about it. Thurkos laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together in a garbage compactor. "Your pet human understands his place, Kothres. You should follow his example. The Krellian supremacy does not tolerate clumsiness." I wanted to say something. Wanted to point out that bumping into someone, even a self-important military commander, did not justify breaking bones. Wanted to remind everyone that this was supposed to be neutral territory, but I'm not brave. I'm really not. I'm a navigator. I plot courses and avoid obstacles. That's literally my entire personality. So I helped Marcus up as gently as I could. His broken arm hung uselessly at his side. He didn't make a sound, didn't cry out, even though I could see the pain in his face. "Humans, and their stupid medical bay," I said. "Now." "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "Probably a good idea." Thurkos and his soldiers were already walking away, laughing among themselves. The crowd dispersed. Within minutes it was like nothing had happened at all. The station's medical facility was run by a Krellian doctor named Hest, who had these long, delicate fingers perfect for surgery and a personality like warm soup. She took one look at Marcus and started making clicking sounds of disapproval. "Compound fracture," she said, running a scanner over his arm. 3 breaks. Severe tissue damage. The healing will take weeks. Even with accelerated therapy. "Can you fix it?" I asked. "Of course I can fix it. I'm a doctor, not a decorative plant. The question is whether this human will file a formal complaint with station security." Marcus, who was lying on the medical bed looking somehow even paler than usual, shook his head. "No complaint." "Marcus, he assaulted you," I said. "That's completely against station regulations. Vel would have to take action." "Vel won't do anything," Marcus replied softly. "The Krellian supremacy has trade agreements with half the station's suppliers. She's not going to risk an incident over one human engineer." He was right, of course. Politics. Always politics. His started working on the arm, injecting something that made Marcus's eyes go glassy. Pain medication. Good. I sat in the corner of the medical bay watching my friend drift in and out of consciousness while the doctor carefully realigned bones and repaired torn muscles. I should mention something else about humans. They have this saying, "An eye for an eye." It's an old Earth expression about proportional justice. Most species hear that and think it sounds reasonable. Fair exchange, equivalent consequences. But humans don't actually believe in equivalent consequences. That's the trick. That's what makes them dangerous. When you hurt a human's friend, they don't take your arm in return. They take everything. I didn't realize this yet. I was still operating under the assumption that Marcus would heal up. We'd avoid the Krellian delegation for the rest of their visit, and life would continue as normal. I was so incredibly wrong. 3 days passed. Marcus's arm was in a regeneration cast. One of those smart material things that accelerates cellular repair. He was back to his quarters on the Endless Prophet, supposedly resting. Captain Dulrex had given him medical leave, mostly because Dulrex was terrified of worker compensation claims. I visited him daily, bringing food from the station because ship rations were terrible. Marcus seemed fine. Quiet, but fine. He smiled. He thanked me for the food. He asked about my navigation charts for our next run. Normal conversation, but there was something in his eyes. Something I couldn't quite identify. Humans have these incredibly expressive eyes, and if you spend enough time around them you learn to read emotions there. Fear, joy, sadness. All very This was different. This was calculation. On the 4th day, Marcus asked me a question. "Vorrn, do you know where the Krellian delegation is staying?" I should have lied. Should have said no. I have no idea. Why would I know that? Instead, I answered honestly. Deck 12. The diplomatic suites. Why? Just curious, Marcus said. He was eating some kind of protein bar, chewing slowly with his good hand. They still on the station? Their ship is scheduled to depart tomorrow. Some kind of inspection tour of the sector. Why are you asking? No reason. He smiled that small smile again. Thanks for the food, Vorrn. You're a good friend. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that look in Marcus's eyes, about the way he'd asked those questions, about human expressions I'd heard before, but never really understood. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Don't get mad, get even. Hell hath no fury. I dragged myself out of my sleeping pod around 3rd shift and made my way back to the Endless Prophet. Marcus's quarters were empty. His regeneration cast was sitting on the desk, removed way too early for proper healing. My stomach, all 3 segments of it dropped. I ran. Well, what passes for running when you have digigrade legs? I headed straight for Deck 12. The diplomatic suites were in the luxury section of the station, all polished metal and soft lighting. Security was minimal because this was supposed to be safe territory. I passed 2 bored-looking station guards who didn't even glance at me. The corridor outside Threkos' suite was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard it. A voice. Human. Speaking in that soft, calm tone that meant absolutely nothing good. Marcus's voice. I found them in the suite's main room. Threkos was on the floor, surrounded by 3 of his soldiers. Except the soldiers weren't standing guard. They were unconscious. Not dead, I could see them breathing, but definitely out cold. And Marcus was standing over Threkos with what looked like a maintenance laser cutter in his good hand. Threkos was awake. Very awake. And very, very scared. You broke my arm, Marcus was saying conversationally. That was inappropriate. I'd like to discuss proportional responses. Human, Threkos growled, but his voice was shaking. You are making a grave mistake. The Krellian supremacy will what? Marcus interrupted. Still so calm, so reasonable. File a complaint? Come after me? Please do. I'd enjoy the conversation. That's when I noticed that Threkos' right arm, his primary manipulator, was positioned on the floor, extended, held in place by some kind of magnetic clamp that Marcus must have rigged from engineering equipment. Oh no, Marcus, I said from the doorway. Don't. He glanced at me, smiled. Hey Vorrn, you should probably look away for this next part. This is insane. You'll be arrested, executed. They'll do what they were going to do anyway. Marcus said. See, here's the thing about bullies, Vorrn. They only understand one language, and that language is violence delivered with absolute commitment. He activated the laser cutter. I did look away, but I heard it. The sound of the laser cutting through scales and bone. The roar of pain from Threkos. The smell of burning tissue. When I looked back, Marcus was holding Threkos' severed arm. Just holding it. Looking at it with clinical interest. Compound fracture, he said. 3 breaks. Severe tissue damage. Seems fair. He dropped the arm and deactivated the laser cutter. Threkos was screaming now, clutching the cauterized stump where his arm used to be. Marcus walked past him, past the unconscious soldiers, and stopped next to me. We should go, he said calmly. Security will be here soon. I followed him because what else was I going to do? We made it back to the Endless Prophet before the alarm started. Marcus went straight to his quarters, cleaned himself up, and put the regeneration cast back on his arm like nothing had happened. Captain Dulrex was pounding on my door within the hour. What did your human do? She roared. All her scales were puffed up in agitation. Station security is going insane. The Krellian Commander is in medical. His arm is gone. I don't know what you're talking about, I lied. Marcus has been in his quarters recovering. The security footage. What security footage? Marcus's voice came from behind me. He looked sleepy, disheveled, his arm in its cast. I've been sleeping. Pain medication, you know. Makes me groggy. Dulrex stared at him. Then at me. Then back at him. The Krellians are demanding justice, she said slowly. Justice for what? Marcus asked innocently. Did something happen? Before Dulrex could respond, my communication panel chimed. It was a priority message from Coordinator Vel. The message was simple. The Krellian delegation would be departing immediately for emergency medical transport. No charges would be filed. The incident was being classified as an internal security matter. Translation. Vel was sweeping this under the rug because the alternative was a diplomatic nightmare. Dulrex read the message and then looked at Marcus with something approaching respect and terror. You're either the bravest human I've ever met, she said, or the stupidest. Marcus smiled. Why not both? After she left, I turned to Marcus. You're going to start a war. No, he said. I'm going to prevent one. Bullies keep pushing until someone pushes back. Threkos will think twice before he casually breaks anyone else's bones. And every other Krellian commander will hear this story and recalibrate their understanding of acceptable behavior. That's insane. Maybe. He looked at his cast. But you know what? My arm still hurts. And his hurts worse. And somehow that makes me feel a lot better. I didn't know what to say to that. The Krellian ship departed within hours. Word spread through the station like radiation. The human engineer who took a commander's arm. Some versions of the story were accurate. Others claimed Marcus had fought all 20 soldiers simultaneously. By the time we left Hellix 9 2 days later, Marcus had achieved something close to legendary status. He didn't seem to care. He just went back to work, fixing things, smiling, being his normal self. But I noticed something. Other species in the station gave him space. Respectful space. The kind of space you give to something dangerous that has chosen for now to be peaceful. And I understood something fundamental about humans that I'd never quite grasped before. They're not strong because they're fearless. They're strong because they're terrified, and they choose to act anyway. They're not dangerous because they're violent. They're dangerous because they understand violence intimately, and they decide very carefully when to deploy it. Marcus hurt Thrakos because Thrakos hurt him. Simple mathematics. Human mathematics. An eye for an eye, they say. But they never mention what happens when you take the eye of a human's friend. Then it's not eyes anymore. Then it's everything you have and everything you thought was safe. I learned that lesson on Station Hellix 9, and I decided right then that if I ever had to choose sides in a galactic conflict, I was choosing the side with the humans. Because they're absolutely insane, but they're loyal to their friends. And in this cold, vast, uncaring universe, it might just be the most terrifying power of all. So here's the thing. Nobody tells you about mutilating a Krellian military commander. It doesn't end when you cauterize the wound. It doesn't end when the diplomatic channels go suspiciously quiet. It doesn't even end when you leave the station where it happened and jump 3 systems away. It ends when the Krellians decide it ends. And the Krellians? They don't forgive. They don't forget. And they definitely don't let some random human engineer take their commander's arm without consequences. I should have known better. I really should have. But for about 2 weeks after we left Hellix 9, everything seemed fine. The Endless Prophet made its scheduled runs. Marcus fixed the things that broke, which on our ship was basically everything. Captain Dulrex stopped looking at him like he was a bomb that might explode. Life returned to its normal, boring rhythm. I actually started to relax. Big mistake. Huge. We were hauling a load of industrial proteins to a mining colony called Vertex Outpost when the Krellian warship found us. Let me paint you a picture. We're a cargo hauler. Our weapon systems consist of 2 defensive turrets that maybe on a good day with favorable solar winds could dent an aggressive asteroid. Our shields are rated for micrometeorite impacts and cosmic radiation. Our top speed is slow. Our maneuverability is terrible. The Krellian warship that dropped out of hyperspace behind us was a Devastator-class cruiser. 1,200 meters of armored death. Enough firepower to glass a small moon. The kind of ship that makes pirates wet themselves and change careers. And it was broadcasting a very specific message on all frequencies. Cargo vessel Endless Prophet, power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You are harboring a fugitive wanted for assault on a Krellian military officer. Surrender the human Marcus Reeves immediately or be destroyed. Captain Dulrex's scales went from their normal muddy green to a pale, sickly yellow in about 3 seconds. Her claws were gripping the command console so hard I heard the metal creak. Options. She barked at First Mate Keswick. Keswick's 4 arms were flying across her station controls. We can't outrun them. Can't outgun them. Can't outmaneuver them. Our only option is to comply or die. They'll kill Marcus, I said. My voice came out wrong, all high-pitched and squeaky. Panic does that to Kethresh vocal cords. They'll kill all of us if we don't hand him over. Dulrex shot back. She wasn't wrong. She was just prioritizing survival over loyalty, which is what most captains do. Most captains. Not all. The bridge door opened and Marcus walked in. His arm was still in the regeneration cast, but he looked calm. Too calm. That human calm that I'd learned meant his brain was moving at about 1,000 thoughts per second. Don't hand me over, he said quietly. Dulrex spun to face him. Are you insane? That's a warship. A capital-class military vessel. They will vaporize us. They won't, Marcus replied. He moved to the communications station. They want me alive. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be debris. That's a very thin margin of safety, Keswick pointed out. All 4 of her arms had stopped moving. She was watching Marcus with her large, dark eyes. Marcus smiled. That small, dangerous smile. Trust me. I want to be clear about something. Nobody on that bridge trusted Marcus. Not really. He was a good engineer. A decent guy. But you don't trust someone who just casually mutilated a military commander and then smiled about it. But we also didn't have better options. What's your plan? I asked. I'm going to talk to them, Marcus said. He activated the communication system. Krellian vessel, this is Marcus Reeves. I'm willing to discuss terms. There was a pause. Then a voice came through, deep and resonant and absolutely furious. Human. You took the arm of Commander Thrakus the Unyielding. There are no terms. There is only surrender and justice. Justice, Marcus repeated thoughtfully. Interesting word choice. See, from my perspective, justice was already served. Your commander broke my arm for the crime of accidentally bumping into him. I broke his arm in return. Equivalent exchange. You did not break his arm. You severed it completely. Well, yes, Marcus admitted. I'm an engineer, not a surgeon. I did the best I could with the tools available. The point is, we're even now. You should probably move on. I thought the Krellian on the other end of the transmission was going to have an aneurysm. The sound that came through the speakers was something between a roar and a hiss, and pure distilled rage. Even? You disfigured a decorated military commander. You humiliated the Krellian supremacy. You will pay for this crime with your life, human. Okay, but here's my counter-proposal, Marcus said, still in that calm, reasonable tone. You leave us alone, I continue my boring life as a cargo ship engineer, and nobody else loses any body parts. Seems fair. Negative. Power down your engines. Prepare for boarding. This is your final warning. The transmission cut off. Captain Dulrex was making a sound I'd never heard before, like a tea kettle crossed with a dying animal. We're doomed. We're all doomed. This human has killed us all. Not yet, Marcus said. He turned to me. Vorrn, I need you to plot a jump to the Pharaoh Nebula. Fast as possible. The Pharaoh Nebula. Oh, fantastic. The Pharaoh Nebula was this massive cloud of ionized particles and electromagnetic chaos about 6 light-years from our current position. Ships avoided it because navigating through it was suicide. Sensors didn't work. Communications failed. You were basically flying blind through a cosmic blender. That's a terrible idea, I said. It's the only idea. Can you do it? I looked at my navigation console. Looked at the massive Krellian warship on our sensors. Looked back at Marcus. Yeah, I said. I can do it. Do it, Captain Dulrex said suddenly. She'd apparently decided that probable death in a nebula was better than certain death at Krellian hands. My fingers, all 7 of them, flew across the navigation controls. Plotting a jump into a nebula requires insane precision. You need to calculate entry vectors, account for gravitational eddies, predict particle density fluctuations. It's not impossible. Just really stupid. Jump plotted, I said. But we're going to be blind in there, and they'll follow us. They'll try, Marcus said. But their ship is big. Ours is small. We have advantages. What advantages? They have better sensors, better engines, better everything. Marcus's smile got wider. They have better technology. We have something more important. What? Desperation in a Kathras navigator who's too stubborn to die. I want to say that his confidence was reassuring. It wasn't. But I appreciated the sentiment. Engaging jump drive, Keswick announced. 3, 2, the universe folded. That's what hyperspace jumps feel like. Reality bends. Your stomach does things that violate several laws of physics, and for a few seconds you exist everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Then we dropped into the Pharaoh Nebula and everything went completely insane. Alarms started screaming. The hull groaned. Outside the viewport, space wasn't black anymore. It was this swirling, angry red and gold, like flying through the inside of a star. Electromagnetic interference turned our sensors into useless garbage. Radiation levels spiking, Keswick reported. All 4 arms working furiously. Shields holding, but we can't stay in here long. We won't have to, Marcus said. He'd moved to the engineering station. They followed us in. He was right. On what was left of our functioning sensors, I could see the massive Krellian warship. They'd jumped in right behind us, probably thinking they'd capture us easily. They were wrong. Vorrn, can you navigate us deeper into the densest part of the nebula? Marcus asked. Probably, but why would I want to? Because their ship is 1,200 meters long. Ours is 85. We can go places they can't. I understood immediately. It was actually a decent plan. Well, a plan that had a 5% chance of working instead of a 0% chance, which in our situation was basically a miracle. Hold on, I said. This is going to be rough. I pushed the endless prophet deeper into the nebula, following gravimetric readings and pure instinct. The ship shuddered. Something in the cargo bay exploded. The lights flickered. Behind us, the Krellian warship was trying to follow. But Marcus was right. They were too big. I watched on sensors as they had to slow down, navigate around dense particle clouds, Avoid gravitational eddies that could tear their ship apart. We were pulling ahead. Marcus, they're launching fighters, Keswick said. 6 of them. Of course they were. Because our day wasn't terrible enough. Krellian fighters are these sleek, fast killers. Heavily armed, highly maneuverable, piloted by warriors who train their entire lives for combat. Against our cargo hauler with its 2 defensive turrets, they were basically guaranteed win. Except we were in a nebula, and nebulas don't care about your training or your weapons. Vorrn. How are you doing this? Captain Dalrex asked. She was staring at my navigation console like it held the secrets of the universe. Doing what? Flying through this death trap without killing us all. Honestly, I didn't know. I was operating on pure instinct, reading gravitational shifts that shouldn't be readable, sensing density changes before our broken sensors detected them. It was like the nebula was talking to me and I was listening, or maybe I was just lucky. Either way, we were still alive. The fighters weren't as fortunate. I watched on sensors as one of them hit a pocket of ionized particles and its engines flared out. Going. Another tried to follow our exact path and misjudged a gravitational eddy. Its signature vanished as it was pulled into a dense cloud and crushed. 4 left. They're gaining, Keswick said. They were. Fighters are fast and our cargo hauler was not. Even with my navigation, they were closing the distance. Then Marcus did something crazy. He opened the cargo bay. What are you doing? Dalrex screamed. Creating a debris field, Marcus said calmly. We're hauling industrial proteins, right? Pressurized containers. The nebula's electromagnetic interference will destabilize them. I understood a second too late. The cargo bay doors opened. 80 tons of pressurized protein containers vented into space. The nebula's radiation hit them immediately. They exploded. Not all at once. In sequence. Like cosmic fireworks. The Krellian fighters flew straight into the expanding debris field. 1 managed to dodge. The other 3 weren't fast enough. Their shields failed under the combined assault of shrapnel, radiation, and sheer bad luck. 3 more signatures vanished from sensors. 1 fighter left, and it was right on our tail. Weapons fire lanced past our hull. Our shields flared. The ship shook. Shields at 40%, Keswick reported. Another hit. Then another. 20%. I was out of tricks. Out of options. The nebula was thinning ahead. Once we cleared it, that fighter would tear us apart. Then Marcus stood up and headed for the door. Where are you going? I shouted. To fix this, he said. He went to the airlock. I want to be absolutely clear about what happened next because even now, cycles later, I don't fully understand it. Marcus put on an emergency vacuum suit, the kind we keep for external repairs. One-armed, injured, he sealed himself in and cycled the airlock. Then he went outside. Outside our ship, in the middle of a cosmic radiation storm, while a Krellian fighter was shooting at us. He's insane, Captain Dalrex whispered. Yes, I agreed, but I kept flying, kept dodging, kept us alive. Marcus climbed along the hull. I could see him on the external cameras, moving hand over hand, his magnetic boots keeping him attached. He reached one of our defensive turrets, the one that had jammed 3 jumps ago and nobody had bothered to fix. He fixed it, in the middle of combat, in a radiation storm. With 1 functional arm, the turret came online. I saw it rotate, tracking the Krellian fighter. Marcus fired. The shot wasn't sophisticated, wasn't elegant, but it hit the fighter's engine at exactly the right angle. The engine flared, destabilized, and the entire fighter spun out of control into a dense particle cloud. Gone. Marcus climbed back inside, cycled through the airlock, took off his helmet. Problem solved, he said. His face was red from radiation exposure. His arm was definitely broken again. The cast cracked and useless. Nobody said anything for a long moment. Then Captain Dalrex started laughing. This deep, booming laugh that shook her entire body. You magnificent, insane human. You beautiful, terrifying lunatic. I brought us out of the nebula on the far side, away from the Krellian warship. By the time they navigated through and figured out where we'd gone, we were 3 jumps away and running silent. We made it to Vertex Outpost without further incident. Delivered what was left of our cargo, which wasn't much. Captain Dalrex filed an insurance claim for nebula damage and lost cargo. Nobody mentioned the Krellian warship or the dead fighters. Marcus went back to the medical bay. Dr. Hess took one look at his arm and started making those clicking disapproval sounds again. You re-broke it, she said. Yeah. You're an idiot. Yeah, but you saved the ship. Marcus smiled. Yeah. 3 days later, we got a message. Encrypted. Krellian military code. Captain Dalrex almost deleted it. I convinced her to let Marcus see it first. The message was from Thrakus. Or what was left of Thrakus. His face appeared on the screen. Scales dulled. Missing arm clearly visible. Human Marcus Reeves, he said. His voice was different. Quieter. You have taught me a valuable lesson about consequences and proportional response. The Krellian supremacy has reviewed the incident on Hellix. Your actions, while extreme, have been deemed an appropriate response to unjustified aggression. No further action will be taken against you or your vessel. He paused, then added, almost reluctantly, you have honor. For a human. The transmission ended. Marcus deleted the message and went back to work. I found him later in the engineering bay, welding something with his good arm. So? I said. That's it? It's over? Maybe. Marcus said. Or maybe Thrakus learned that breaking people has consequences. Either way, I can live with it. You could have died. Multiple times. We all could have died. Yeah. Was it worth it? All of this? For revenge? Marcus stopped welding. Looked at me with those expressive human eyes. It wasn't revenge, Vorrn. Revenge is about anger. This was about setting a boundary. Thrakus thought he could hurt people without consequences because he was bigger and stronger. I showed him he was wrong. Now maybe he'll think twice. Maybe other Krellian commanders will hear this story and reconsider their behavior. Maybe not. But at least I tried. By taking his arm. By taking his arm, Marcus agreed. Sometimes the only language bullies understand is the one they speak. I thought about that. About humans, and their strange morality. About violence, and justice, and where the line between them exists. You're still insane, I said finally. Marcus laughed. Probably, but I'm your friend, and friends protect each other, even when it's stupid and dangerous and completely insane. That's when I understood something fundamental about humans. Something that makes them both terrifying and valuable in this cold universe. They don't calculate cost-benefit ratios when it comes to friendship. They don't weigh consequences against logic. They just act. They protect what they care about with absolute, unwavering commitment. It's irrational, inefficient, completely illogical. It's also the most powerful force I've ever witnessed. 6 cycles have passed since the incident on Hellix 9. The Endless Prophet is still making cargo runs. Marcus is still our engineer. His arm healed, eventually, though he says it aches when the weather changes. I tell him there's no weather in space. He tells me it's a human expression. We're friends. Real friends. The kind who would fly through nebulas and face warships for each other. Word spread through the trading lanes about the human who took a Krellian commander's arm. Some species think it's a cautionary tale. Others think it's inspiration. Me? I think it's just Tuesday for humans, because that's what they do. They form bonds. They protect their own. They respond to violence with calculated, proportional, absolutely terrifying force, and then they smile about it and go back to fixing broken engines. I still work with Marcus. Still share meals with him. Still listen to his terrible jokes. But now I know. I know what he's capable of when someone hurts his friends. And I know that in this vast, dangerous galaxy there's no one I'd rather have watching my back than a human engineer with a broken arm and an unbreakable sense of loyalty. They hurt my friend, so he took their commander's arm. Fair exchange by human mathematics. And honestly, I can't argue with the results. The galaxy learned a lesson that day. The Krellians learned a lesson. I learned a lesson. Don't hurt a human's friend, because they will smile. They will calculate. They will act. And when the smoke clears, you'll be missing more than just an arm. You'll be missing your certainty that size and strength equal power. Because humans taught us all something important. Sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't the biggest gun or the strongest warrior. Sometimes it's the quiet engineer who just wants to protect his friends. And that's a lesson worth remembering.